Zooming. And for those of us that would like to, we can rise to recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight, May 16th, 2022. And joining us, myself, Matthew Weiss, and Athena Goodson on the board, Alex Joslow, and Amanda Curley on the board, and Cecilia Quintaro and Megan Huppick. And we have with us Karen LaRockefeller, our director, and assistant Kathy Byrne, and Molly Robbins, the assistant director, and Dennis Newberger, head of the Friends, and Leslie Allen, head of the foundation. And hopefully we'll be joined shortly by our last trustee. And I think Jonathan Marshall is going to join us too, right, Karen? All right.
He did say he would.
Okay, good. Very good. The first item of business is the approval of the prior meeting minutes. And we have two meetings. The minutes have been distributed. Hopefully you had a chance to see them either in hard copy or digitally. April 12th, the special meeting, and April 18th, the regular monthly meeting minutes.
Matt, could we separate these two for approval?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Yes. Because we don't have, we don't have everybody in attendance for both. So if there are no questions or if there are any comments for the April 12th special meeting minutes, I would like to entertain a motion to accept them in a second so we could proceed to a vote.
I
Amanda,
motion.
thank you. And a second. And Alice, thank you. All those in favor of accepting the minutes for the April 12th special meeting, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
And are there any abstentions or objections? There being none, that passes 6-0. Hello, Jonathan Marshall. And we'll take a minute to take a look at the minutes from the April 18th. I'm sorry, yes, regular monthly meeting. If there are no questions or comments, I would, yes.
Matt, I have a question about your committee, your report. It covers page 2 and 3.
Yes.
And towards the last two bullets of your report on page 3, where it states, the board discussed committees and decided to have a work session in lieu of committees. And that you will send email to schedule work sessions.
Right.
So if I understand this as it's stated, it means, am I reading it correctly that we're going to have workstations and not have committees in the future? And that's what the board discussed?
No, since that was the gist of our meeting, because when the comments came out of that discussion that some people joined this board after experience on the school board and felt that people were against work sessions. And then the discussion centered around work sessions, and people thought that was a much more efficient way of working without committees. There was never any objection to that comment. As a matter of fact, the recording that I listened to carefully, almost everybody reiterated their support for work sessions and found that the committees were lacking because small groups of people made decisions for everyone. Small groups of people got information without the rest of the group receiving it. And because there was no objection, the implication, maybe I inferred it incorrectly, was that work sessions will be the acceptable way to proceed. But that was neither a resolution nor a decision made by the committee. That was a summation of the conversation that I put.
That wasn't my understanding. I thought we would revisit the things that were discussed, because when we have committee, don't we present our proposals or findings to the board at the next session?
Generally, yes, if there's something to be voted on. But this was meant to be an effort to, as it indicates, pick a timeline and commit to specific work for the committee. But the general response was that's not a good approach. It's not effective, and you can't tell people to do certain things by a certain time. And that conversations would be much more effective, and people would volunteer, and that things would get done. So it was all, the emphasis was on the work session, but I don't have any intention of trying to twist this into something that you may not think it was. And I would definitely submit, if you feel that it needs to be revised, that we either omit the last two bullet points, which I think were accurate and objective, or we rewrite them. But I don't know what version would be acceptable at this point.
I'll just interject here, Matt, that I think that I really agree with you. The board discussed committees. And I think we did have a good discussion about committees and how effective they were. And I think we also agreed that we were going to move forward with the idea of work sessions. That part of what's here, I agree with completely. I did not understand at all from our discussion that we decided to have a work session in lieu of committees. And I agree with you. This is not a resolution. It's not changing policy. It's in your interpretation of what our discussion was. But I wanted to bring it up because I didn't understand that from our discussion.
So we will, I can readily submit that we remove the reference to work session in lieu of committees and just say the board discussed work sessions.
I think that,
You can talk, Alice.
All right, so I wasn't even at that meeting. But so what I'm asking is, did the board make the decision that we will have 2 meetings a month set? One is a regular meeting and one is a work session. And then like you have this calendar that was put together in the minutes, right? So that we have space set aside for those agenda items to be discussed during work sessions. And those
Nothing that
those
was
will be-
discussed, but it wasn't discussed any more vociferously than the 2 bullet items that are in question here.
Okay, and then I would make the request that the work sessions be on Mondays, right? Because, that's like a board time, because it seems lately we've been having these Google polls and this and that. So going forward, could we just have 2 meetings set a month? And then Kathy is so good at keeping us on track, right? Kathy, you'll remind us that, that you need to do this, you need to do that. Like it will be as an agenda, sort of standing agenda item by month, in terms of the things that we'll discuss, and they could clearly be added to.
Well, that's logical, but I think that it wouldn't be appropriate to ask Kathy to do that at this time, because we really have to ask Karen to do.
Well,
to
the
give
Karen
Kathy
and the
that
president and.
But I also think, just personally, every Monday does not work for me. Like, I know that I have a meeting on second, but like, I think that we need to discuss that, because if we're going to add another meeting, I think, like this, I make sure every 3rd Monday is library. And then when we have the holidays, like from the beginning of the year, when we set our meetings, that's what I set my schedule. So I think that that's something that we should decide in reorg, and, just figure out if 2 Mondays out of the month is okay for everyone. Maybe, maybe we have to move it to a different day. It's just.
Well, I would respectfully request that we pick a regular day. And if second Mondays don't work for you, maybe first or fourth Mondays. But this whole idea of having to do Google Docs.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when we
Yeah.
do our reorg, we come to the table with the set, and we set a second day of the month for our board session.
I would respectfully request that at the reorg meeting, usually Kathy's nodding, the calendar is set. So I would say in the next few weeks, could we figure out what the mutually agreeable date is so that Kathy can then mark the dates? And then maybe at our next board meeting, we can discuss what some of the standing items should be, like the contract, the various things that are listed in the minutes. But Kathy always presents the calendar to us at the reorg meeting. And by the way, I don't know when the reorg meeting legally has to be, but I am away that first week of July. So I don't know if we're able to push it into the second
I
week.
think maybe we should talk about that in
But
another meeting, not
I
this one.
understand, but I'm just saying, let's work with Kathy. Maybe we'll get a regular meeting pattern set so everybody can do it.
Thank you.
Can I add a quick point? And can we have at the end of our meeting minutes, just an FYI at the end of each meeting minute, the upcoming dates? Because as I have other committees and other people have this situation too, it's easier for me not to miss something on the calendar.
My
Oh.
apologies. I always forget it, Cecilia. And you've asked before.
I'll ask again if need be, but just for the record, while we're being taped, thank you.
So at this moment, I will table approval of the minutes of the April 18th meeting to be revised by removing the bullet points at the end of the president's report. And that will bring it up to date. And if there are no other questions or comments, the floor is open. We can go on to public comment of our guests. And Leslie Allen, if perhaps you're ready, we'll yield the floor to you first.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everybody. We have a new member, Steve Alpert, who came to us through Matt, has been involved at the library tutoring and brings some financial savvy that we could use, which takes me to the big donation that we got. We want to figure out how we're going to spend that. Karen had a number of programs and she is going to prioritize the programs and sort of bust out a couple of funding. Sorry, I'm missing a word in my head. I apologize. Some strategies for funding the different programs. They're 3-year strategies so that we can take the money we need for the first year and put that in one place and invest some of the other money so that we're at least making a little money off of that while we're waiting to use that money for the next steps in the programs. I believe that Karen had 4 or 5 different areas where she could use the money, and we're looking forward to seeing her report on that next month when we meet. We would like to establish an endowment with some of the money or add to what had started our endowment. And we're going to be doing that. And as I said, Steve, our new member, is going to help us invest the money. He calls it laddering up. I hope I'm using the lingo correctly, where we have different due dates for the money coming up so that we can take some of the money, but keep some of the money invested.
Leslie, that's seriously, that's very much so your, the foundation's business, not, you know, you really don't need to reveal any of that to us.
Oh, sorry.
No, you didn't violate anything. I'm just sharing that that's
Okay.
your business. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm not, you know, the lines are a little blurred for me right now because the foundation is so new and then COVID made it perpetually new. And, but I wanted to let you all know that we are really excited about putting this money into the library, guided by Karen's program suggestions. It's exciting. It's exciting to have money. It's exciting to spend it. I also think that down the road, having this money and talking about having new programs being funded is going to help us raise money because we sound fresh, we sound forward, And I think that's important for the library at a time where the building's not as new as it used to be. And we're coming out of COVID and people are looking for, you know, what our organization is doing going forward. We also talked about having some events. Miriam had missed our meeting, but she and I have had another meeting. And what we would like to do is come up with one event in the theater and one event not in the theater. And because we're coming on to summer, I'm not sure which one will happen first. It's important to us to have events that are available to the public, as well as having events where we raise some funds. On a side note, Miriam did the singing telegrams for another organization and said she didn't raise nearly as much money as when it was for the library. So she felt really good that people care that much about the library, that that's when they wanted to buy their singing telegram. So that is about it.
Very exciting.
And maybe too much, and I'm sorry.
No, I just want you to
All
be
good.
here.
Okay. Well, Matt, maybe you can give me a little crash course at some point.
Thanks, Les. And at this time, Dennis Newberger, how are you doing? What's going on with the Friends?
Things are moving slowly, but they are moving. Our financial checking, we're at $2,500, savings $4,702. The volunteers year-to-date savings is $5,835. The events that we're planning in the future, we're going to start accepting books on May 18th through the 7th of, we're not sure if we're going to stop on the 1st or the 7th, but we're going to have a book sale on July 9th. And we also will, you know, work with Karen and Molly on the scholarship program. And again, I will donate money towards that in memory of my wife. We did have some activity, Michelle. We had books that we thought could go to the Peace Corps, and she found out that the Mount Kisco Library was in need of some of these types of books. So she and I delivered 14 boxes and got them out of the 5,000 room. We delivered them last Saturday, and their sale is coming up this coming Saturday. We've had no homebound or any other deliveries. And I do want to give a special thank you to Mallory Marianano. She met with us, the whole team, and created a flyer highlighting the Friends activities. And she's going to meet with us monthly to continue to determine ways to communicate activities, work possibly with the foundation, and work with organizations. So we want to thank Mallory and Molly for their support to the Friends. We are in need of trying to increase revenues, so we'll work with Mallory on trying to find a way to promote to get more members into the Friends. That's it. Any questions? I tried to be brief.
Thanks, Dennis. The material, I think that was part of our packet, looked good, that Mallory's been producing.
A lot of folks in the community missed the book sale, so they're glad to have them back.
And I want to confirm again that we are a volunteer group. We are committed to accepting all volunteers and nominations. There are no interviews. We would welcome everyone. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dennis. Jonathan Marshall, how are you? And how is
Very well.
WLS?
Very well. We'll try to have a few things that I just wanted to go over. The ransomware attack, which I don't think really impacts you, but that is basically first important and most important. No patron data was compromised as a result of the attack. I think that's just as a sort of a baseline to put forward. And Wilson and his team have been doing a number of different things and different strategies. And so we'll see, you know, and that is progressing, and they're doing further investigation and trying to make sure that everything is back to to what it was before, and I hope everything is working well with Ossining. And I know if there's any questions, I know you and Wilson, I'm sure, are talking about it. But so that's that. Also, I think the last time we met, we talked about Mount Vernon Central Library situation, and the update on that is that Peekskill is the new central library for, they voted on it at their board, accepted at the WLS board meeting, and basically the MOE, which now I'm blank. Oh, MOE is the maintenance of effort, and we voted and recognized that change for the next 2 years, that Peekskill will be the central library, and in year 3 there will be discussion and the opportunity for Mount Vernon to again be involved, become the central library. And they are now working to complete annual reports that are due, and getting that approved by the Division of Library Development. And they've also are looking at the regents. I think it was January 1, I think is the meeting, is the date. January 1 is the date for the paperwork due that for Mount Vernon board to have that into the regents related to their continual service as a board. And that's the whole question mark going on right now. That is the regents of New York State are asking that question. So at this point, they're working with WLS, with Terry and Lise and others, to get the documents completed, approved, and then sent off to the parties of the state that need to be need to themselves approve the documents. So at this point, we are waiting for the waiver that was filed by WLS after the board meeting, April 26th. And that's an important waiver, because if that waiver is accepted and things go through, that will hopefully, and if it doesn't get approved, will mean that the $80,000-$90,000 of money that was originally part of the money going to the central library as of for Mount Vernon can now go through as part of this, with the central library now being at Peekskill. So the important thing is that we're not going to lose $80,000 to $90,000 in the 2022 budget. So we're just waiting for approvals, and that hopefully will be shortly. Next is I think you probably saw some emails on the Westchester Library Public Innovation and Engagement flyers that a lot of these are now available for both libraries, but also other groups. And they have a full range of activities that we do, from job searches, job search toolkits, as well as the Westchester Reentry Task Force Resource Guide. And I bring that up just to mention that I think I'd mentioned at the last meeting that there was a $250,000 grant from the Schmidt Future Foundation, and for the next 3 years, and that we're going to be related to the and working with WLS's Reentry Digital Inclusion Project that the STEM Alliance and Westchester County Reentry Task Force is doing. So this will be delivering computers, and working with people coming into reentry to make sure the tech skills are brought up to date, and to be of benefit to those that are reentering, both individuals and spreading out into actually to their families, because they will be getting Chromebooks and other devices and Wi-Fi. So we're excited about that. And then there's also some different workshops coming up with different projects. But there's one that I know they went out from Terry, but it's called New York State Chief Judge Janet DeForio. She has a Access to Justice initiative, and one of those is now it's a faith-based pilot program that she has going. And I don't know if that's something that that Ossining is looking at in any to see to participate in some shape or form. But I thought that was an interesting program just for you to look into. And they've got some test programs going on in Mount Vernon, and I think there may be an opportunity for Ossining also. So that is the that program's there, and then there's a never to forget. There is a WLS Trustee Institute coming up on January. January. We're moving quickly this year, but hopefully not that quickly. June 1. And that will be at the New Rochelle Public Library. And the title of that is Rethinking the Public Library's Role as an Anchor Institution. And that is open and available for trustees, members, and we hope that will be of interest to you. And you can attend either in person or via Zoom. And Kate Meyer, Mayor had sent something out. I don't know, I'm sure if you have any interest in that. I think Karen is probably, I'm sure, has all the information on that, but if there's any questions, happy to get that to you. But it's June 1, and coming up on June 14th will be the Trustee Handbook Book Club meeting with talking about PR and advocacy. And since advocacy is important for raising money with the New York State and county, I know everyone's interested in that, and public relations is always a part of that. Because they're May 3rd. I don't know if any folks attended that, but they had a fascinating one on planning and evaluation, and that was interesting. So there will likely be more trustee handbook book club meetings in the fall, but we're waiting to get the exact list. So lots of different things going on, WLS, and just wanted to check in, see if there's any questions that anyone has.
No questions. Now the onus is on us to make sure the trustees are reminded when these dates are coming up. We appreciate your help. And Leslie, Dennis, and Jonathan, I just want to say that as volunteers, you folks are doing a great job, working hard, and we appreciate your attending these meetings with the regularity that you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I've got to go, so
Okay.
sorry.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks again, Jonathan. At this time, Karen, if you're ready and there aren't any additional questions or remarks for the director's report, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'll just go through some highlights. As you know, tomorrow is the budget vote and trustee election. I'm sure that you're all aware of that. As far as the foundation grant goes, or the grant that's coming through the foundation, I am recommending that we name the learning center that we are building in the children's room the David Swope Learning Center. It was requested by one of the Swope Fund representatives that there be some sort of naming, and that is really the only physical thing that we're doing with that money. The rest is programmatic, and on the programmatic, events, we'll of course mention where the money came from as well. But I wanted to make sure that the board was okay with that, because the agreements need to be written up between the foundation and the fund, and that's holding it up at this point in time. I'm assuming that everybody's okay with that. Please object if you're not, let me know. Also money, we are receiving, well, should be receiving $25,000 again from Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff. This had to be for, again, programmatic types of things, no capital, and we had to whip it together in about 2 days. So that was really exciting. But generally, these grants that come through are, when we get word that we are eligible for the grant, generally they do come through. So we're looking forward to that. We're bringing in also lots of funds through the E-Rate program, which is really great. Allison Robbins has been instrumental at doing that. We work with E2E Exchange, our E-Rate consultants, but we did receive the notification that we will be awarded our 80% of the funds for our broadband and 80% of the funds for the part of the recabling project that we'd like to do. And the proposal for the recabling is on the agenda later for you to vote on. I'm going to be moving forward with an internal promotion for Librarian 2. Allison Robbins is our Librarian 1. In that particular position, this was something that we budgeted for and in our last budget year, and I'm excited to be moving ahead with that. The work that she does is very much of more of a management type of level work, lots of project management, some personnel management, and lots of grant management as well, as far as the technology goes. Diana Lennon and I are still interviewing to fill the vacant librarian position in adult services. It's a real challenge. The job market is very difficult right now. The civil service restrictions make it sometimes seem like impossible. But right now we have 2 potential candidates, both of whom seem really good. We're checking references now, both of whom should be on a civil service list, although we have to verify where they are on the list because they just got on the list, so they weren't on the list that we pulled.
How long did the county make you wait for candidates? You're still waiting?
Well, actually, we're still waiting for the Librarian 1 Spanish-speaking list. That one never came through for us. Kathy sent a reminder the other day, and we're still waiting on this. We did canvass the regular Librarian 1 list and went through that whole list. There were no viable candidates on that list who were interested in the position. The 2 candidates who we're looking at right now had already been in the process of getting on the Librarian 1 civil service list, but came to us through some outreach that we did with other library systems and other job posting sorts of areas.
Why is it so hard for them to get you a list when you ask for it?
There's so many reasons, Alice, and none of them are logical.
Okay. I mean, it would seem that I would like a list. They do
Right.
whatever sort they need to do. They spit out the names and they email it to you. Why would that take more than a week?
Under the best of circumstances, it shouldn't take more than a day.
I know, and I was being generous with a week, but
Yeah.
it's months, right?
It's not just us, Alice. All of the library directors who have to work with civil service are very frustrated with the situation. And I do want to say our representative who we work with at civil service is wonderful. She tries very hard to get us what we need, but there's some level of, I don't know if it's bureaucracy or I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's becoming more and more problematic.
Is it something that needs to go to our legislators?
Yes, it does. And the Civil Service Committee that Beth Bermel is heading up will be moving in that direction.
Okay.
Let's see. Allison, back to technology. Allison Robbins just filed for another round of ECF funding, so we'll be getting more Chromebooks and hotspots should that be funded, and we have every reason to believe that it will. She's also working on putting together new copier contract proposals. We were hoping to have something for you by this meeting, but she's having trouble getting 3 quotes, as is everybody else these days. So hopefully we'll get that soon. The ransomware attack, while it didn't affect us as much as it did other libraries, it did affect our ability to access the back end of Evergreen because the password authentication goes through WLS. It doesn't go directly to Evergreen. Luckily, our network was secure. Our workflows were not impacted other than what was happening at the circulation desk and at the information desk, and they could do workarounds in order to provide the service that we needed to provide. But it was frustrating and time consuming. It was just frustrating and time consuming. So we'll be working with WLS, a few directors and I, to advocate for direct access, direct secure access to Evergreen. There should be no reason why we have to go through WLS for that. Just wanted to point out some highlights from some of the other reports. We had wonderful success at our Earth Day presence. Susie Zavarella headed up the effort to have a table there and be a presence, and they got a lot of traffic, which is really exciting. We had our Minecraft servers up and running, and we started Minecraft Mondays in the children's room. The kids are super excited, and Kevin's having a lot of fun with that. We have a new therapy dog, Emma, who comes on Saturdays, which is a lot of fun. And there's one other thing I wanted to mention, which I'm forgetting. Oh, at the next meeting, Mallory Marinaro will be coming to discuss her recommendation for a graphic designer to redesign our logo. We've been talking about a new logo for some time. She's been doing some research, and she will have a recommendation for you by June. Any questions about my report?
Well, questions on the report. How difficult was it for you to come to grips with changing the logo? I know you like the logo.
I love the logo, but internally, staff have trouble with it on certain backgrounds. It sort of fades and doesn't work as well on certain backgrounds. Some folks think it just needs some sprucing up. One of the things that we would really like to do with the logo is be able to like adapt it for different maybe celebrations. So it's the same logo, but maybe like a different color, or maybe with a little picture or something like that. And you know, I think it's time. I have my pin with the logo on it, which I will cherish forever.
Thank you. Any other questions or remarks for Karen? Yes, ma'am. I believe you're on mute.
Amanda, you're muted.
Thanks, Matt. About naming the children's space for David Swope. I know we had a naming policy we were working on. That's still out there, isn't it?
We still need to do a naming policy. I
Yes,
wish we had it
okay.
in place just for this reason. We'll get there.
Okay, I was looking for it just now and I couldn't find it. So I know we read a number of different naming policies that other libraries have. And this is something that we were concerned about. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The last time we named something, we named the theater for the piano donation. We named in the children's room, the activities room, in honor of Sally Dow, right? Longtime employee. And it doesn't seem unreasonable given the level of generosity that's been shown to the library to do this, right? And they had requested that. That's the only string, so to speak, they gave us, isn't it?
I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying
Yeah,
we're
no, I
working on a
understand.
naming policy and we don't have it in place
And
yet.
right, and we wrestled with this on the school board too, right? We
I don't
wrestled
remember.
with that, at least when I was on the board, we wrestled with that too.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
So we can move on to the committee reports. I had submitted in writing a president's report. It was motivated by my experience in life and in business, where I see a small business grow and the person at the top continue to stay in control of everything and try to run things by themselves. And it usually doesn't work out well. And I think the library is somewhat approaching that point where it's getting to be a big business, certainly a medium-sized business, and it's growing quickly. Whether you consider the budget, or you consider the programming, or consider the professionalism of the staff, the library is growing. And in order to continue that growth, I think that it's important that we consider at least one aspect of the way the office is structured. And I think human resources is important. Karen touched upon the competitive nature of hiring people these days. And I think it would add tremendously for the library to be able to say to a prospective candidate that we have human resources, that we have services that will provide employees an opportunity to talk to someone beyond the director and beyond their department head. I think it's important to consider that someone in that position might be able to even help the trustees, because if they come with a fresh outlook on board development, maybe there's a resource that we have, because we don't have a lot of places to go to find out what are good ideas for board development. But neither of those things are locked in. This is just some random thoughts that I had. And my intention was to share with each one of you what I see as a potential roadblock to growing the library. And if anybody has any questions, or they think it's over managing or micromanaging, that's fine too. But if we don't consider it, I hate to be in a position where we say, oops, we never thought of that. Okay, something that we may not.
Yeah, say something, Matt?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Amanda, you go first.
I thought it was an excellent idea. I don't know how you go about it, whether you do it part-time, full-time, or any of the nuances there, but I understand exactly what you're saying, Matt, and can see where it would be benefit Karen. But now, sorry, Karen, I interrupted you.
That's all. Not at all.
In the library.
As we've talked about this recently, we still have the budgeted full-time position that was vacated by Carrie Cabillos. So we do have a position that we could use either full-time or part-time. That's to be determined, but it's something that I think is necessary. I also want to say that the work that is done in the business office by Kathy and Terry and Bob is excellent. That is not the issue. It is just simply the hours and some of the more tricky situations that have to be dealt with.
Sure, if you had more time to do library work, I think that'd be great for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's where I was headed. On another note, I felt that, as was mentioned in conversation, I don't know if you were able to join us at the time, Shandi, but we discussed the idea that we can focus on our July reorganization meeting as an opportunity to add in our schedule work sessions and maybe changing some of our schedule and workload. I think it's important that we actually prepare for that July meeting, in the sense that maybe we have a work session dedicated to how we want to go about nominating officers, electing officers. We do have a schedule we have to stick to, and maybe it's important that everybody be made aware. We take it apart, dissect it, and put it back together, so everybody can go home and say, now I know what's going to happen, because I will never make an assumption that everybody knows all the things they need to know, or all the things they want to know, so that you'll never hear from me, which is why I think it might be a good idea. So at that reorg meeting, we have election of officers, and we can discuss whether or not to keep the committees the way they are, to keep monthly meeting schedule for committees, work in the work session, so to speak, and will that rotate a different night each month? Will that be the same date of every month? And maybe organize an agenda. You know, these are things that I think would be great to do in advance. And It's just an idea. If you think it's a good idea, that's great. And that's where I'm thinking.
So this would be a meeting that we would schedule for June,
I think so.
an extra meeting. I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea personally.
Our next regular meeting is June 13th. So what we can do is perhaps Althema, if you're so inclined, maybe you can set up another work session and we could talk about an agenda. If not, we can open up the agenda, maybe part of a poll, and see if there are specific things folks would like. One of the problems I see us running into is with committees. At the last policy committee, we had 5 trustees come. Technically, any majority of trustees requires the meeting to be an open meeting. It has to be announced and it has to be open to the public. So it doesn't help if I don't go to the committee meetings anymore, we're still over 3. So we do have to make a decision if we want to have committee work open to the entire board. Just have to use a different name. It's not really an obstacle, it's just a detail. If we don't want to do that, we can't invite the entire board to the committee meeting because that's the only way the committee can work within its confines. So these are the things that they're important. They're not critical, but we do have to follow these guidelines. And I hope I didn't put anybody to sleep. We can move on to the next committee, policy and bylaws and personnel. Amanda, if I could turn it over to you.
Well, I'll put everybody to sleep for you, Matt. The policy committee met and we had a very interesting discussion. One part of that we have been looking at are policies that the board has not really reviewed for a significant amount of time. And so it was the ALA policies which we reviewed our past meeting. And I'm going to take a minute here, please, and I hope everybody stays with me. In the packet, you have your ALA Bill of Rights, which I think it really behooves us to read it together and for to put it into the minutes, because it's a very important document, which was updated by the ALA since we last incorporated ours. So this new ALA Bill of Rights for the Ossining Public Library has added a piece, it's a number 7, which wasn't in our Bill of Rights before. So here goes. The American Library Association affirms that all libraries are forums for information and ideas, and that the following basic policies should guide their services. 1, books and other library resources should be provided for the interest, information, and enlightenment of all people of the community the library serves. Materials should not be excluded because of the origin, background, or views of those contributing to their creation. 2, libraries should provide materials and information presenting all points of view on current and historical issues. Materials should not be prescribed or removed because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval. 3, libraries should challenge censorship in the fulfillment of their responsibility to provide information and enlightenment. 4, libraries should cooperate with all persons and groups concerned with resisting abridgment of free expression and free access to ideas. 5, a person's right to use a library should not be denied or abridged because of origin, age, background, or views. 6, libraries which make exhibit spaces and meeting rooms available to the public they serve should make such facilities available on an equitable basis, regardless of the beliefs or affiliations of individuals or groups requesting their use. 7, all people, regardless of origin, age, background, or views, possess a right to privacy and confidentiality in their library use. Libraries should advocate for, educate about, and protect people's privacy, safeguarding all library use data, including personally identifiable information. And that is the Bill of Rights from the ALA, and which we would like to have as our first reading for the Ossining Public Library Bill of Rights.
Are you open for comments?
So I was happy to see this, and on the way out of the office earlier today, I took a picture of the framed Bill of Rights that's under the staircase, and that needs to be updated too. So I don't know if ALA has that ready for replacing what we have. We have numbers 1 through 6, which is basically what we saw in writing when we got together.
Yeah, I just wrote a note to myself to see if ALA has the updated poster available so we could switch it out.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Cecilia and Molly.
Say, Amanda?
Yes.
Amanda, I reread this a couple of times. The first time I heard it at the committee meeting that we had, I really wasn't sure about many of the implications, so I had to reread it. And I've come to the conclusion that this is even though it's ALA and it seems like it's a national movement to accept this Bill of Rights, I still see it as very disruptive. And I think to accept it, which I wholeheartedly do now, means that we've taken a stand and we may be called to defend it. And that's something I prepared myself for emotionally. I don't know if I'm in a meeting and we're called out to explain our position and why we would support something that's so open to so many views without editing or restricting, that I'm inclined to say that it makes the most sense for any of the policies that I thought that made sense before.
Thank you, Matt. Alice?
Yeah, I also recall attending a board meeting. I was not a library board member, I was a school board member. But after 9/11, the Patriot Act was passed. And there was a lot of language in that around access to people's searches and stuff like that. And, I remember all the library board members struggling with that because it was a question of whether the library adhered to the Patriot Act or not. And this language is very clear and in some cases could be very alarming, right? Depending on if some groups ask to meet at the library, right? It says everybody can meet there, right? But it's just interesting to think about it because just in light of the Patriot Act when it happened, it was all about sort of Big Brother watching what people were searching and doing, right?
Okay. Well, anybody else? No? Okay. Now, you're going to hold with me for a second because there are two pieces related to this that I want to go into both of them. In our minutes for April 12th, we had a resolution. It was resolution number 62, approval of guidelines for publication of candidate statements on the OPL website. Having read the Bill of Rights, we got the policy committee got into a detailed discussion about this resolution that we made. And in retrospect, we thought that guidelines for publications of candidate statements, we really are not going to make guidelines. Under the Bill of Rights, we wouldn't have guidelines. However, what we would like to do is when the candidate statements are posted on the Ossining Public Library website, there will be a disclaimer, basically that these statements do not reflect the library's position, so that candidates for office in the future will, according to the Bill of Rights, will be able to post whatever their statements are as they're running for an office. However, we will have a disclaimer there. I don't have the exact wording for the disclaimer, but that's what we strongly recommend that we agree to do. We also thought, because part of this resolution 62, we brought up the submission of a photo. And the suggestion was that candidates for the board will have the opportunity to have their pictures taken for at the library. They're pictures that will accompany their statements, and that we will just, if you'd like to have your picture taken here, we will do it here. That sort of brings a level of equality to everyone whose picture will be posted on the website. So I wanted to go back to this resolution because the policy committee discussed it, and that was our conclusion, especially as it's connected to the Bill of Rights. Any questions about that or comments?
No, but I forgot about it. We'll have to amend that resolution for the next meeting.
So what you're saying is you want everybody's picture to be taken at the library, including current board members too? For the
We didn't
picture that's
discuss
posted?
current board members, Alice. We were only talking about future
Going forward.
candidates.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think, Matt, in the resolution, we said that, oh, actually, you're right. It does need to be amended. Yes, okay. I should have noticed that earlier, and I didn't. And finally, you have another first reading, and this has to do with the ALA. It's access to library resources and services for minors. You will notice here significant changes in red to our current policy. And these changes are because the ALA revised their library resources and services for minors policy. So what's been done is we've incorporated their changes into our policy as it was previously written. So I'm not going to read through this policy. There's a lot more for us to cover, but I think everybody's had a chance to read it themselves. And we'd really like to present it to you as a first reading tonight. And this was quite a bit to take on tonight. So that's why this is where we are at the moment with everything. I hope the policy committee agrees with that. And if you have anything else you'd like to add to my comments, please feel free to.
Thanks, Amanda. Tomorrow's a big day for the budget vote, the election, and Karen or Althema, was there anything else from finance? Anything we should know about?
No, I didn't have anything that I thought we should talk about.
All right, Karen and or Molly, anything on the update on buildings and grounds?
Yes, I have some things. A quick update on the retaining wall. They are going to need to gather at least 6 more months of data to be able to confirm what kind of movement we're seeing in the wall. Because of that, we're going to put up a fence along the rear parking spaces. It's a 6-month lease on the fence. And that should help us with people just parking there anyway. No amount of barriers seems to be stopping them. And they really do need there to be, minimal disruption in traffic because we're talking about fairly minor or very specific measurements. And so big equipment, cars, things like that can actually impact their results. Along with the exterior of the retaining wall, we're about to start a considerable amount of, in some cases minor, slightly major, repair work to concrete walls, stairs, and some other landscaping issues that need to be resolved. They were put off for the winter, and now we have time to get to them. And so you may see people busily doing and repairing things on the exterior. There's also going to be a little bit of dust in the interior. We're taking care of some carpet and paint that needs to be handled. Some of it's in areas where there's just been so much traffic. There's damage, or we have grant funding or other resources available to take care of these particular areas. So while it might seem kind of haphazard why we're doing one area and not another, some of it has to do with funding and planning. And one of the pieces is the new Quick Stop Business Center that is going to the area that's to the right of the circulation desk. That's going to have the copier will be moved there. There'll be a printer, a quick computer that you can stop at, do quick emails, do faxes, scanning, and just be able to get in and out of the library quickly without necessarily having to go all the way through the building or involve yourself someplace else.
Molly?
Yes.
Will you be changing the signage then?
Yes. It's going to say friends. I can't remember exactly what we decided it was going to say, but it's a variation on what it says now. Unfortunately, the way the letters are attached to the wall, they're going to have to be removed. And they look very sturdy, but they're actually just foam. And we did some experiments and they're not going to survive the takedown. So new ones will be coming. On Wednesday, the 11th, was Lothrop came and did our comprehensive building review. They had done a preliminary walkthrough previously, and then this was the big comprehensive one. One team that included John Tortoso and Steve Garrett went to look at more the engineering and physical sides of things, including the roof, which Steve's not a roofing expert. He admitted that, but he said he was alarmed by the condition of the roof. So we're looking forward to getting a full report that will help us move forward. And I went through with Marilyn Reed, their interiors person, and Amanda joined us for that as part of the building committee. And it was nice to also have somebody who was a regular library user who could give their feedback about what they see when they walk in the door or when they sit in a particular place. It all came together very well. Some of the things that Marilyn and I focused on were things that could be addressed immediately. For example, lighting, areas where the lighting is dim or distracting, and some other things that acted as more immediate fixes that would improve the functionality of the building. So I'm really looking forward to Lothrop's report and presenting it all to you. And yeah, and our next steps with them.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mo. There are no questions on any other items along the lines of the buildings and grounds or the work that's being undertaken. We'll move on to the resolutions. The first one is number 64. We discussed this personnel change for Allison Robbins to become librarian 2, if I am reading it correctly. If there are no questions or comments on resolution 64, I will accept a motion and a second. Thank you, Alice and Cecilia. All those in favor of accepting resolution 64, please indicate by saying aye, raising your hand. And are there any abstentions or objections? We have one abstention, so it carries 6-1. Shandi, you're more than welcome if you have any questions or something you want to say in that. I don't want to make you think I'm rushing past. You're not obligated.
No, not at all. I abstain.
Okay. And resolution 65, it reads, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the NAV Systems LLC, quote, in the amount of $32,000 for replacement of CAT or Cat 5 to Cat 6, cabling an addition of 34 new Cat 6. We are receiving E-rate funding for 80% of this project. So Karen, perhaps a little background maybe on that.
Yes, part of the work that we're eligible for E-rate funding for, which is federal funding, is for the physical technological infrastructure of the building, and that of course includes cabling. Our library, when it was built, we were given Cat 5 cabling, which was the standard at the time. It might shock you to learn that some of the installation was done very poorly also. And so we have committed over the next few years to replace all of the cabling in the building with Cat 6, which is the newer standard, and also add new cabling for areas where we know we need it. And this is cabling that data travels over. So if we want to put a computer or a networked copy or a network printer in an area, we would want to have cabling there. So this represents about a third of the cable. We think a third of the cabling that we need. And then every year going forward, we'll apply for a new batch of E-rate funding for more cabling.
Thank you, Karen. So, any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion and a second for Resolution 65, the Cat 6 cabling project. We could proceed to a vote. Thank you, Amanda and Cecilia. All in favor of Resolution 65, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye. And are there any abstentions or objections? There being none, the motion carries. And Resolution 66, acceptance of a donation. We have a handwritten letter on a peach, perhaps colored page from Phil Just, thanking us very much for what the library has provided. And he's donating $200. And I'll accept a motion to accept Resolution 66 in a second. And thank you, Cecilia and Amanda. All those in favor of Resolution 66, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand. And are there any abstentions or objections? And there being none, that carries. Resolution 67. It's a Section 73 termination. Now, Karen, I guess we'll discuss this in exec, and then we can come out of exec and vote on this resolution. Okay, sounds good. Does anybody who, I don't want anyone to think they don't have a chance to speak. Are there any different items or issues? We're about to bring up old and new business, but the floor is yours. If you just wanted to make a comment, an observation, that's fine. No one's obligated. Under old business, we have a June 6th annual meeting. Karen, I imagine by now plans are well underway, if not complete.
Yes, plans, I wish they were complete. Plans are well underway. I'm excited because we have set our keynote speaker will be our village historian, Joyce Chirac Cole, who will be talking about the work that the genealogy group has been doing at the library. And then, of course, we'll have our awards, our Volunteer of the Year, Elmore Riley Saper Voracious Reader, and addresses by various people.
Excellent. Very good. The next topic under old business is the parking lot, which has become more crowded if that's possible, in my opinion. I end up parking on the street, so I don't suppose there's anything new, or perhaps I'm surprised.
I can give a small update, which may or may not be of any consequence. I have advised the staff that I would like them to start parking on the upper level of the lot, in the upper 2 levels instead of the lower level, for 2 reasons. One of which is that the lower level spots really need to be, staff should not be taking up those spots unless they need handicapped access. The only handicapped access and access for strollers that we have on the property is the lower level. So that's one part of it. And another idea, and I think this was I know this was Molly's good idea, was perhaps if we more fill up the top of the lot between staff and patrons, it may discourage some of the use by next door. I know, Matt.
Wishful
It's wishful thinking.
Is there perhaps, not to cut you off, but I don't think there's anything additional to add to that. And if that's the case, is there anything additional regarding the Historical Society?
I have nothing new.
Okay. And the financial endowment possibility, I don't know if we have an update. There was one person who was a former resident or patron of the library and a resident of Ossining who contacted us from Massachusetts, but I understand she has since passed away.
Yes.
So we don't know, we haven't been contacted by anyone, so we don't know if there was
No.
anything. Okay. Okay. So that is the old business on the agenda. If there wasn't anything else that anyone needed to add or question, we could take a look at the new business. And one is to schedule work sessions. We had a brief discussion earlier, and we can pick it up right here, that a regular Monday night is not particularly good. But maybe a doodle poll is the answer. Personally, for me, I'm very flexible, but not everybody has that level of flexibility. So I think that evenings are probably much better than days or weekends. And I think what we'll have to do is play the doodle game, and hopefully someone will win. We also have new business Friends memberships. Was that something that the board was?
That was something that I wanted to bring up. In your packet is a Friends membership form. We highly encourage trustees to join the Friends. It shows support to a really great organization. So please consider joining the Friends.
Well, for the past couple of years, we had an anonymous donation that paid for all of the board members to have membership in the Friends, but that unfortunately has expired. So we don't have a replacement for that at this time. And the Learning Center we did discuss about, and that's a new phrase, discuss about. And we did talk about the copier contract and the cabling contract. So if there's something anyone would like to bring up, perhaps a desire to set a work session this time, or an agenda for a work session, or anything else, we'll be more than happy to discuss it. And if there's concern about the structure of these meetings, that's open for discussion as well. If you'd like to change the way that approach is taken, that's not a problem at all. Everything is open for discussion. As a growing organization, I feel that the best thing we can do is try new things if what we have can be improved upon. So no one will be turned away because they have an idea that they may not think is a great idea. So at this time, before we go to executive session, I'd like to ask Jonathan if you had any additional comments or anything in closing.
Nothing additional, but I will repeat just that June 1 is the WLS trustee meeting. And that's, again, rethinking the public library's role as an anchor institution. And then that's June 1. And then June 14th is the trustee handbook book club. And the topic is PR and advocacy. That's June 14th. Figure just keep repeating the dates. That can hopefully be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Dennis.
Nothing to add. I'm still amazed at what you people accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to end our meeting and go into executive session. And a second. And thank you, Cecilia. And thank you, Alice. So all in favor of going into exec and ending our regular meeting at this time, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand. Are there any abstentions or objections? There being none, that carries. Molly and Kathy, oh, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
That's okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting in a sec, so we'll vote on it.
Don't we
Do you
have,
want to, I'm sorry to interrupt.
we have to
Do I have to
Do you want
table,
to
table
table
something?
67?
Yeah, Matt forgot to table. So I will entertain a motion to table resolution 67, which was the section 73 termination. Amanda, Alice, thank you. And all those in favor of tabling resolution 67, please indicate by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
And are there any abstentions or exceptions? There being objections, there being none, it carries. And at this time, if I didn't forget anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn in a second so we could vote on it. And thank you, Althema. And we have a second from Megan. All those in favor of adjourning indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
All right.
and no abstentions or objections. Remember to stay safe and stay well, and you'll be getting Toodle polls, and our team will be in touch with you. And thank you very much, Karen. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.